Anyone that still thinks that Ochako Uraraka is a Sakura clone or is an inferior character should just be navigated to this chapter of My Hero Academia. The amount of effort, the amount of quality that Horikoshi-sensei has put into Ochako speaks for itself with this chapter. Like, we've always known for a while now that Ochako was becoming a hero that saves heroes. And what this chapter does is takes her mentality of a hero that saves heroes to a whole other level. Because she's not just saving heroes, she's also trying to make others understand what heroes go through. And it's honestly really interesting how Horikoshi Sensei dives into that. And so I want to just get right in that first before I get into anything else for this chapter of My Hero Academia. So, to get right into it, basically, when Ochaco takes the stand after the failure of, Best Genius and how he wasn't able to convince, the public, how we had everybody, all the civilians just arguing, I'll talk all about that in a second, Ochaco decides to grab a microphone and rush off above the crowd, and then she starts yelling her actual feelings, her thoughts about everything going on. She talks about how Izuku, he is special. He is someone that has a special quirk. He has a quirk that the villains are targeting. He is being targeted by the number one villain currently at this time, and it makes a lot of sense why all of them are scared because of this reason. Their fear is definitely valid. And then she goes on and says that, he needs to rest. And then they were like, he can rest anywhere else. He doesn't need to rest here. She's like, why don't you take a moment and look at him? He left this area. He left behind UA for he could allow you all to be safe. But look what he's been through. Look what his body currently looks like. Look how much he has destroyed himself to be able to keep you all safe. Do you really want this? Do you want to sacrifice the life of this human being for you to remain safe? And she kind of makes everyone have a huge wake-up call. And this is something that the whole society of, My Hero Academia has been doing for a while, is that all the civilians, they don't look at heroes as people. They idolize them to the point, build statues of them, All Might as a good example, and they put them up on such a pedestal that they no longer view that individual as a human being anymore. They no longer view them as an entity that should, falter. An entity that can be battered and bruised and want to give up. And so obviously in the recent times in the My Hero Academia universe, seeing heroes give up, see heroes, kind of laying down their mantle, putting down their armor and everything, all these individuals, all these civilians are just having a huge cultural shock. They're having a shock that all of these people, all of these heroes are not actually heroes. They're just human beings. And that's what Ochako is trying to remind everyone, is that even if he is the number one target for the villains, does not mean that he is not human. He isn't a living being that has feelings that could falter and be weak at times. And I appreciate this entire moment with Ochako, because she's literally saying it's not just about, the heroes protecting you guys. You also need to view heroes in a way to where they're actually human instead of just a hero. And so behind that mask, behind the armor, behind everything that these heroes don on them, the smiles, everything, there is a human underneath. And that is what Ochako did. And I appreciate this. I appreciate this so much by the way Horikoshi-sensei wrote that into Ochako's character, because she's the perfect character, honestly, to really kind of observe others and then kind of throw it out there of how she feels or how she thinks about certain things, especially with what someone's going through. She's always shown this type of character trait since the very beginning. She's always analyzed others and observed what their actions are and why they're doing certain things. And so her to explain to the public why it's okay for him to stay there, that's what I appreciate, because she kind of settled it in such a normal human way that I have no complaints whatsoever. I think anyone, like I said, that has a complaint with Ochako as a character after this point, I don't even know what to say. Are we reading the same series? I can understand disliking her, that's fine. But if you think she's an inferior character and she has no development, then, like I said, we're not reading the same series. But okay, with that out of the way, I just want to say that, one of the other things about this chapter that is very interesting is the whole principle stuff. So, I've been seeing this float around for a while. I don't know exactly where the theory originated from, but it's definitely not from me. But I've been seeing for a while now that some have been saying that, robots or electronics within the My Hero Academia universe might do some form of rebellion or a rising up or something. And now, I know you're probably thinking, wait, what? But when you look at the context of this chapter of My Hero Academia, it does seem more plausible that maybe machines and electronics could go haywire and potentially, go against what UA and the heroes actually want. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. So we see the first segment of this chapter, the whole first half, basically the principal, outlining what the school's defense actually is, what's going on with the school defense, how powerful it is, how it works, how it can, negate certain villain quirks, etc. And when you look at just the fundamentals, if you want a quick summary of what the defense system actually is for, it's to completely counter Shigaraki's quirk decay. That's exactly what it's for. And you had some of the students themselves even mention, like, Principal, how did you know that, Shigaraki's quirk would evolve to such a way? And then the principal's like, oh, it was just my intuition. And I know many are probably thinking that the principal is rather sus. Like, he feels very, suspicious because of being able to plan for Shigaraki's evolution to such a degree. But that's not the main point I want to look at. I want to look at the fact that these systems that are put in place are so complicated, so convoluted to a certain degree that it makes it to where one little thing that can go wrong could just destroy the entire foundation of the security system. Because once again, when you see the entire outline of the plan, it seems very feasible, it seems great. It seems like, how could this system, this powerhouse of a system that is protecting UA, possibly falter? And that goes back to what I've been seeing float around, the theories that there could be robots that turn against, UA, or robots that turn against, just the people in general. What if there's a quirk user on All for One side that is able to manipulate the robots and cause problems to where they malfunction, and then all of a sudden everything shuts down and doesn't work in the right way? What if those tunnels that, let's say, the evacuees are supposed to go down just completely close off, and then they're trapped, and then Shigaraki's quirk, just comes in and decays all of them? That's the point I'm trying to make, is that nothing is fundamentally impenetrable. There is ways to crack certain security. And when you look at the way everything is structured, it seems like there is easily something that could go wrong. It has to be someone potentially on the inside. And this leads back into the traitor theory. For a long time now, we have all discussed, I think, who is the traitor. Who is the traitor in UA? Which student is the traitor? Which teacher is the traitor? There's been so many theories thrown out there for a very long time. For years now, since basically the beginning of My Hero Academia, almost every single character probably has a full-on list and description on who is potentially the traitor. However, I do want to point something out. And like I said, this is a theory. This doesn't mean that it's going to happen. This doesn't mean the character is a traitor. I just want to point out, though, that there is one individual character that we do know of that is inside of UA that has the capacity to mess with the current security system. And that individual is Mei Hatsumi. Now, I know you're all thinking, okay, Chibi, are you trying to imply that Mei Hatsumi is the traitor? I'm not saying she is, but she is an individual that is eccentric. She makes a lot of devices, she makes a lot of machines, and she has been shown to be in places that she shouldn't technically be at some points. Think about this. When All Might and Izuku a while back were training together, and you saw Izuku trying to learn how to have, projectiles with, flicking, basically, Hatsumi, she walked up on them as they were training, and she acted like she didn't hear anything. It seemed like she was very naive, but she did walk in on them. And that's the strange part is that when you look at the way her character is structured, she looks very ditzy. She looks like all she cares about is technology. All she cares about is her babies, making stuff. But that's the thing. If we go back and trace back to her beginning of her character when she was introduced, she used Ida to be able to showcase her inventions to others, to get sponsors. And let's think about a group that has become very relevant in recent times that makes hero gear. Redestro's group. Now, what if, hypothetically, she was trying to get sponsors and Redestro's group confronted Mei? It's like, hey, could we work with you? We'll give you sponsors if you make gear for us. What if? Because when you think about it, Mei Hatsumi, as an individual, she does like supporting heroes, she does like making gear for them, but what's to say that she might have less limitations if she can make gear for villains as well? Gear that doesn't need to have safety protocols. That's what I'm trying to say, is that I feel like there is definitely going to be a traitor reveal soon. I'm not saying it's Mei, but it is possible because of just how this system, all it has to be done at this point is someone that has I guess, good ability to break the system, or is able to manipulate it from the inside. I mean, obviously, things can be done from the outside. We know a few characters that are a part of the villains group that are able to do this, but I'm just pointing out from the inside alone to trace back to the Traitor theory. But okay, let's get back into the actual security system. So, the principal, as he outlines everything, he talks about the 3,000 plates that are supposed to kind of separate if there is any form of malfunction, any form of detection of an anomaly coming in. Basically, if Shigaraki was to, say, be above ground, he puts his hands on the ground, he starts decaying everything, those plates are going to sense it, and then they're all going to just individually separate entirely from each other. And in theory, this is an incredible layout to counter his quirk. It really is. Like, it's incredible to think just like how engineered it is, and how this was structured without really anyone actually knowing it was being structured underneath their feet. That is a video entirely in of itself to talk about. But the point, though, is that basically what I'm saying, these interlocking plates being able to separate like they are is so ingenious that I feel like it's just crazy to think that, this was able to be designed. Like, I wonder how this was designed with no one knowing about it. How much did that really cost? Which that gets into the principal's background. We come to find out that the principal is a worldwide well-known individual. Someone that has been making a lot of stride in the whole hero society. Someone that's probably getting a lot of, like, money from the side backing and stuff. You could say he's this world's Elon Musk to a certain extent. Maybe because of his crazy inventions in technology or whatever. That's what you could kind of assume. But the point I'm trying to make is that the entire security system is so heavily detailed that it just goes to show the level of intelligence that the principal has to even be able to come up with this to such a high degree. Now, let's also talk about the actual Best Jeanist segment, and also just how the civilians acted towards Izuku, because I think this is a very powerful moment before Ochaco stepped in and kind of changed everything around. Basically, when you see Best Jeanist walk up and he starts to talk to the civilians like, hey, we're bringing, Izuku here, we tried to keep him out in the field, but we couldn't, so we're kind of, falling back to bring him here. Obviously, that's not going to sit well with the public, the civilians that are, housed up in a shelter. And I feel like anyone that is quick to kind of yell at the civilians really don't understand the current situation. Because you got to think about what they've been through in the last few months, weeks, whatever. They've been through just relocation. Like, their entire world has just crumbled down around them. It's a lawless world out there. They even said that themselves within the chapter. It's lawless out there. The world has crumbled around them. They no longer have their day-to-day jobs or lives that they once had, and all they have now basically is to, huddle up in shelter and just fear for their lives. That at any given moment, Shigaraki could arrive and just decay the entire area, and then they all die in that moment. You could understand the fear of the people, especially when you've seen, like, your idols, heroes, collapse and fall one after the other. And once again, this goes back to the segment of how they didn't view heroes as humans, they viewed them as just heroes. And it's just like, when you think about it, it makes sense why they act like they do. I don't really blame the public for being very upset with Best Jeanist coming in and it's like, hey, we're bringing in, the number one threat to you guys right now, because, the villains are targeting him. It's okay. Obviously, they would be very upset. They would fear for their lives. That fear kicks in, and they're just wanting to save their family, save themselves. And so the danger sense that Izuku felt within the chapter is horrifying and sad, but it's understandable. It's a realistic depiction of how people would, react if they were put in that situation, surrounded, by a potential threat. So yeah, I think that this chapter is really good. It really gets all the major details across of what Horikoshi-sensei is trying to set up with, Izuku trying to come back to UA, how the public might accept him, how the public needs to shift their viewpoint not just on Izuku but all heroes, and how Ochako is stepping up to be a really good hero that is able to change the tides not just of heroes but also have the people view heroes and maybe even villains in a different light. I feel like just solid work overall. Cannot wait to read the next chapter, because I feel like the next chapter is going to be even more of a banger and probably be even better for Ochako fans, because I highly doubt her speech is necessarily over. But I'll leave it at that. you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Hopefully this video looks a lot better, and hopefully the audio doesn't sound as bad as it did last time, because I saw a few people asking me for, like, feedback and all that, or give me feedback, and I appreciate all the feedback every single individual one of you gave me. For instance, with, moving back a little bit from the camera, instead of being, like, so close, or, having the audio a little bit better. Hopefully everything is better this video. If it's not, once again, give me feedback in the comments below, and adjustments will be made. But with that, be safe, guys. Stay healthy. Chibi out.